There's a hymn in our Unitarian Universalist hymn book with which I suspect those of you who are here are familiar. This is the first line. As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses, for the people hear us singing bread and roses, bread and roses. But of course, that's what the women chanted on the picket lines of the 1912 Lawrence, Massachusetts textile strike. We want bread, but we want roses too. There's a smell to refugee camps, a smell which once you've inhaled it, you never forget. It's a smell of goat dung and human waste, of sweat and tears and unstaunched menstrual blood, but it's also a smell of desperation that gives way to sagging shoulders and the decay of the human soul, because you know, human beings can be clothed in the raiment of fear or stalked by death for only so long before the soul, that is, whatever makes this human animal human, before the soul begins to collapse upon itself as surely as the shoulders do. We want bread, but we want roses too. When I visited the Kalma refugee camp in Darfur several years ago, 90,000 teeming people, we know why they were there, what had happened to them. I was struck, of course, by many things. I was struck by the children who called out repeatedly to us the only English word they knew, okay, okay, with thumbs up in the air, when, of course, absolutely nothing was okay. The infirmary there, whose sole resource for ministration to the people was a box of Band-Aids. But what really took my breath away was this. A young woman who, amid the utter squalor and degradation, her clothes tattered such as they were, tattered and falling off her, but who wore around her neck a lovely piece of jewelry. It was just glass, no doubt, but it was a turquoise-colored glass that sparkled in the relentless sunshine. At first, I thought perhaps it was a religious symbol, and I asked our Arabic-speaking translator to ask her what it was. And he said, she says, it is me. And I thought I had misunderstood, or he had mistranslated. I thought she had just said, it is mine. And I asked him to repeat it. I said, would you ask, did she just say, it is mine? No, he said. She said, it is me. And I understood. Give us bread and roses, chanted the women in the textile stripe. That piece of jewelry, this small sparkling piece of glass, this is me. This is how I know that though I am mere brute flesh, water, swollen tongue, excrement-stained thighs, my most private parts exposed for all to see, that though I am brute flesh right now in this horrific camp, I am not just that. I retain a tiny hint of my humanity. I require bread to live, yes, so do the cows and the pigs and the goats, bless them all, but none of them decorate themselves with turquoise glass. Only human beings do that. Only human beings look on a piece of sparkling glass and call it beautiful, and I am a human being still, and I demand roses too. That's what she was saying. You know, for the most part, the people in Darfur are not starving to death. Yes, of course, they are deprived of much of the food that they need, but for the most part, people there don't die from starvation. The international community has seen to that, but they haven't any bread in any larger sense. They have no fundamental protection, and because of that, they have no roses either, no recognition of their common humanity. And the tragedy of Darfur is that its solution, at least solution to the killing part, is self-evident. This is not Iraq, in which there are no good solutions. Nobody knows how to get us out of Iraq. This is not Iraq. We all know how to stop the killing in Darfur. The Sudanese military is not a formidable fighting force. The Janjaweed are riflemen on horseback, for God's sake. The rebels are not armed with howitzers or surface-to-air missiles. The UN African Union peacekeeping force is set to enter Darfur, but it is starving for want of 1 ground transport unit and 24 helicopters. That's what it needs. When the tsunami hit Indonesia in late 2004, the United States sent 80 helicopters to the region. Thousands of people are dying each day in Darfur for want of 24. The United States hasn't authorized even one. The Sudanese government objects to the deployment of non-African troops. And were the world truly committed to stopping genocide in Sudan, the answer to that would be straightforward. To hell with you! In recent years, the United States has had quite a reputation for saying to hell with you. To hell with you, Kyoto Treaty. To hell with you, International Criminal Court. To hell with you, United Nations. Well, it's time to say to hell with you, Khartoum. No reasonable person suggests that the United States should send troops to Sudan, should occupy another Muslim country. But no reasonable person can possibly believe that we have exhausted all our options in bringing pressure to bear, not just on Khartoum, but on its Arab neighbors, its economic partners, its security mavens. The President and the Secretary of State seek to burnish their legacy today by bringing an end to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Bless them in that effort, but even if they are successful, their legacy will be forever tainted, not just by Iraq, but by their failure to do even simple things to stop the slaughter in Darfur. Even simple things. By the President's failure to give a primetime speech about the matter. By the Secretary of State's failure to go to Khartoum instead of sending her deputies. By the administration's failure to name a prestigious high-level envoy, as they did with John Danforth, the envoy to South Sudan. By the President's execrable decision to go to Beijing to open the Olympics. By the First Lady's admirable outspokenness about Burma and chilling silence on Darfur. And by the want of 24 helicopters. We all know how to stop the killing. What is lacking is the recognition the inhabitants of Darfur need bread, but more than bread. They are our brothers and sisters who cry as we cry, love as we love, bleed as we bleed. They ask nothing more than the fundamental protections that this day, Human Rights Day, 59 years ago, was designed to commemorate and install around the world: the right to life, the right to dignity, the right to roses. As we go marching, in the beauty of the day, 1,000,000 darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses, for we hear the people singing bread and roses.